I go by the name of Woot. I'm based in Atlanta. I'm one of Songtrust's business development associate slash A&Rs. I'm based here in Atlanta, and I'm excited about this conversation we're getting ready to have. Looking forward to speaking with our special guests. Without further ado, I definitely kind of want to go around and let everyone introduce themselves, tell them what you do, where you're from, and then we'll kind of just jump right into it. This topic is, maximizing your royalties with producers. So obviously, our special guests today, have been a part of some great placements and productions, and they have their own businesses and companies that's flourishing. So looking forward to discussing, just giving people information about how to become a better producer and how to kind of just navigate the music industry. So without further ado, we'll start ladies first. Xylo, you want to go first?
Sure thing. Thanks, Woot, and thanks for having me, Songtrust. So a bit of background, I am a singer-songwriter and music producer, and I run Music Production for Women, which is an online learning platform created to encourage a few more women into the space and to create a little more of an inviting learning space than a couple that I had when I started. So we've been running for about 2.5 years, and it's been a great journey in that time.
Love it. Absolutely. And we'll dive more into that for sure later on. Sure. I guess to my left, J.O.N, you want to go first? You want to go next?
Oh, cool, man. I appreciate you, Woo. And shout out to all the fellow panelists. My name is J.O.N. I'm originally from West Tennessee. And I moved to Atlanta after college. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer. Had an opportunity, the pleasure to work on some amazing songs with some amazing artists. And currently, I work on the 85 South show as well, music for the show. So, yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you, bro. And like I said, we'll dive into all of you guys' story. Next up, we got Backpack. You want to go ahead and explain who you are, what you do?
Yes. Thanks for having me, Songtrust, and what's going on to everybody. Jeremy Backpack Miller. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. Currently been here all my life. Travel around though. I've been on the West Coast and back and forth, but I work with a lot of artists, from hit makers to starters. I don't discriminate, but I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. All right. Well, you guys know who they are. Again, we'll learn more about their journeys to how they got here, and definitely want you guys to be able to drop some nuggets. So let's take it back to the beginning, right? Obviously, some are producers and songwriters, I think, and some just solely producers. So what inspired you guys early on to become a singer or a songwriter? And this is a 2-part question. So what inspired you? And also, what are some early struggles that you guys have to deal with early on? Whoever wants to go first, be my guest.
Please, I would like the ladies to go first, please.
Right.
All right, sure. So my biggest inspiration, I guess, was my grandmother. So she had a big kind of musical background, and I think it's always been a sad thing for her that it wasn't something that she could pursue. And she kind of imparted that in me with traditional Indian Carnatic music. And I learned that quite young when I was growing up. And so I started kind of with the singing and struggles, I guess, just, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to this, just navigating the music industry. It feels like such a web, and you kind of don't know where to start. Yeah, so I guess that was the biggest challenge for me, just trying to work out where to go and who are the kind of best people to speak to. Yeah, I guess that was the biggest inspiration for me.
Perfect. And I have a follow-up question for y'all. Hold it. But who wants to go next as far as, what inspired you guys and what were some early struggles that you faced early on?
I'll go ahead. My biggest inspiration would be just seeing things start from the beginning and grow. no matter if it's an artist or a musician, just watching that develop into something, it inspired me just growing up from, watching artists on TV and everything. I would say the biggest struggle is remaining consistent. Even after you have a big song or a big placement, it's, you don't want to, rush and search for another hit, but you just want to stay creative and stay in that creative pocket. So I think that has been my biggest, little I wouldn't say it's a struggle, but that's my thing, just staying consistent and trying to stay on top.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And J.O.N, I'll let you kind of give your piece on this.
Yeah, I would say what inspired me was just growing up in my household. My uncle, my mother's brother, was a songwriter, and he moved to Nashville to be a country music songwriter. And so that was so amazing that he did that. And I grew up playing and singing in church. So being in that environment inspired me to pick up different instruments and write. So that would be the genesis of me making music. As far as struggle, I would think that one of my struggles was in the past, putting so much energy in doing for others and not making sure I focus on doing things for myself musically. I love to collaborate. I love to work with other people, but you have to be mindful and aware that sometimes people take advantage of that. And to make sure that the business is correct, once the music is done as well. And so that was something that I had to be mindful of. And so, yeah, I would say that was one of my biggest struggles. Once I changed my energy and direction, everything was like smooth sailing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Love it. Xylo, you pointed out something early as far as just one of your early struggles was just trying to figure out how to navigate this business, right? And this question is for everyone. So take me back to, how did you guys go about securing your first placement, whether it was a smaller artist, a developing artist, or, you got lucky and caught a big one out the gate. So kind of walk me through, take us back to, how did you go about securing your first placement? And did you send a beat? Or did it go through a management, A&R? Just kind of talk about that.
I would go ahead. Yeah, I can't wait to hear this story. You guys' experience, because I'm sure we all have similar experiences, but.
Ladies first. Let's go. We can the ladies
All
first.
right. All right. Well, I mean, for me, the biggest challenges were kind of getting music production for women off the ground and getting that started and sending out a few, loads of emails, kind of getting myself into as many spaces as possible where, networking and talking to as many people as possible, and slowly getting those breakthroughs where people saw potential in the idea. And I remember some kind of things that felt like huge wins at the time were just sending out emails to people whose name I'd see on records that I love, and getting responses to be like, yeah, sure, let's grab a coffee and have a chat. And I remember the first time I did that, I think I was like jumping around the room for like 5 minutes, called my mom. I was like, Mom, Matt Colton, this mastering engineer, just responded to my email. And she's like, what? Also, what's a mastering engineer? So just kind of putting myself out there and contacting as many people as possible, just cause little breakthroughs to come through, and a lot of kind of connections with a lot of the companies that we work with now. So yeah, I'd recommend everyone kind of do that.
Absolutely. All right, cool. That's a great one. I have a follow-up question. Somebody asked a good question in the chat section, but J.O.N, you can go next, and then Backpack, you can kind of, follow up. What was you guys' first placement? How did you go about securing it?
Oh man, it'll have to be after the same similar story, sending a ton of emails to a bunch of different people and hoping someone says something, a response, like you said, can go a long way. But it wasn't really until I got to Atlanta and I was able to be in a studio. It's a lot to be said for being in the mix. Like, there's no substitute for that. And so being in the mix, I was in the studio with Cody Shane, and I had this song that I had made the night before, and I was sent the MPC. She said, J.O.N, what you got? And I gave her my headphones, and that was that. So like, yeah, there's a lot to be said for being there. I know it's different now with COVID and everything. It's not as easy as it was, but that's how I went about securing that placement, just being in the building.
Gotcha. So Backpack, what's your version of it?
Yeah, that's like he said, being in the studio is way better than sending the emails. I've done that too, sending the emails, but I was doing it before the social media era, so we really had to get out and mix and mingle with artists. Like we would try to catch the artists at parties. If they were hosting something in Atlanta, we would try to pop up and try to mix and mingle, get in the mix and then follow them to the studio. That's the way, I grew up trying to get into the industry. Now you could just hop on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and DM, and they might get, hit you back with an email and boom, you got a placement. So it's a way quicker process, but like I just remember getting out and networking and just building my network for my first placement. And my first placement was a Kid Ink placement. Did it with another producer. So he actually got in the studio with Kid Ink and made that happen. So again, it's about getting in there and networking, just, so they can hear your product, face to face, it just hit different.
Right.
Thanks.
So, few questions in the chat is like, for people who are just starting out, like, how do they find emails? How do they reach certain A&Rs? Just how do they even get started? So I guess we can kind of take it there. Where do they start? How do you find an email? How do you find an A&R? How do you try to get in contact with a big artist? And I guess we can start in reverse. So Backpack, you can go, and it was J.O.N.
I would say, just like I said, Instagram, Google. That I remember doing that. Man, I remember back in the day they had the books with the A&Rs and all the contacts from the labels. Like I remember
the
trying to buy that
magazines
book and find that. Yes,
Yeah.
like get all the A&R contacts out of that. Or it just looking around on the internet for that, man. But like I said, it's so easy now just going directly to the artist. But I remember going through A&Rs. But right now, yeah, just use your social media. If they gonna hit you back on the DM, hit them back in the DM. Now you can walk up on these people. Everybody out and about. Like
Right.
it's way easier to secure a placement now.
Absolutely. So Jay, anybody else has any, thoughts on that or rebuttals for that?
I think Backpack hit it on the head. If that's the route that you want to go, my perspective is a little different. I think that first and foremost, it's important that you already got music, you're putting out music, actively hitting the DSP sites with your music already. I think that's very important. Like, no one's going to take you seriously if you're not already taking yourself seriously. So that's one. Two, you can reach out to these people, or you can be proactive and build your fan base and release your own music. And that may even attract people, and that could even be a more ideal situation business-wise for you versus sending things out. And there's nothing wrong with that. I hit up people every once in a while, but most of my energy is put into trying to do as much as I can for myself, so where I'm not sitting around waiting on anybody's decision, waiting on anybody to reply, and I'm expressing, and get this music out. So, but if, again, Backpack, you hit it on the head, like, you can run up on anybody. And when I'm in public, I definitely will run up to somebody and approach them. And I think that's important too. Take advantage of those opportunities, because that's they can be a lot easier than just sending a blind DM, but actually running into somebody, building rapport with them. Maybe not trying to get an email when you first run into them. Maybe just chop it up and build a rapport and then run into them again. So yeah, I think there's definitely nowadays, like you said, Backpack, the possibilities, and that you can get in touch with anybody. Now, if they reply, but you can really get in contact. They see the message.
Absolutely. Xylo, you have anything for us as it relates to this topic?
Yeah, I mean, really good points from J.O.N and Backpack as well. And, so much in that you can respond to or get in touch with anyone these days. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can search on Google, and I've kind of explored a lot of them to see, how you can find emails, and there's a thing called Rocket Reach if anyone kind of wants that as well, which kind of does the digging for you, and doing that. And I think one thing that for me made me feel awkward about networking when I first started was, I think when you try, and J.O.N kind of mentioned this as well, like instead of when you first meet them trying to get their email or whatever, because sometimes I think people can see through that you're trying to make that connection and coming at it from like, what's in it for me sort of thing. But sometimes if you try and approach them just as if you're making a friend, or even trying to say, how can I help you, rather than the other way around, then people they respond completely differently, and you can build more kind of real connections that way rather than kind of a surface level situation.
Absolutely. And this is just something that I did early on in my career, and this is very simple to do. Obviously, all the major labels have an Instagram page. Go to their page. You can always go see who they're following. Most of the time, they're going to be following employees of the company. And that's a quick way to figure out who's the A&Rs in the building. So you can kind of start from there, just to see who they are. If they don't have an email listed in their bio, send them a message. If not, go over to LinkedIn. Most of the times they're going to have a professional business page with their email. So that's just a quick nugget to figure out who's in these buildings. Go to the company, the labels pages, and see who they're following. So we talked about the first placement, right? Now I want to kind of move the conversation to, what was the turning point in you guys' career where the light bulb went off, like, I can do this full time now, like I'm a real-time songwriter and producer? Was it a record? Was it aligning yourself with a proper team or management? Like, what was the turning point when you knew, okay, I'm in the music industry for real? Xylo, I guess you can start first. We'll just go back in reverse order.
Sure. I don't know if it ever feels that secure. I mean, I don't know if I've got there. Maybe J.O.N or Backpack feel that way, but it's always a grind, But I think for me, the turning point was getting our biggest sort of company sponsors and understanding that there is support from the music industry as well in what I'm trying to do. And once those kind of started coming through, just from all the kind of relationship building before that, it felt like a more, like something that I can and am sort of doing full time. So yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you guys go next.
Back, you can go, and then J.O.N, you can close it out on this
one. I would say, yeah, the once the money came, I'm like, okay, I'm secure. But 2015, I quit my job, and it wasn't anything that had came in or that happened for me. I just said, yo, I just want to do this full time and make this my career. And I did, and it's been just going up for me ever since. But after the Rolex song went viral for me and all those syncs, and I signed up with Songtrust, and that stuff started coming in, I was like, right, I'm good. Like, I'm just gonna focus on this. and that's when I really knew, though, like when I signed up with Songtrust and just seeing how they broke down everything and seeing all my revenues coming in from everywhere, I was just like, okay, this is something that's going to, be consistent and, just going to keep coming. So I'm just going to build on that. And that's when I knew. But
absolutely. Great story. And you kind of segue to my next topic, but J.O.N, I'm gonna let you close this one out. What was the turning point for you, just when it, kind of hit you like, hey, I'm really in the industry now?
Man, I don't know. That's a great question. I've been sitting thinking, because I'm still building in a lot of ways. I think that I've been full time for a while, but just through my journey, there's been times I was full time, then I wasn't, and then I was, then I wasn't. And so this is, I think, the longest. It's been a few years. I mean, I just decided I was just gonna thug it until, we made something shake. And so I would say probably about 2017, 16. And what had happened was, 85 South Show's been touring for years. We started small and we just been building. So I was doing that, and I was working at this. At the time, I thought it was an amazing job. And this place called the Park City Market. It's this nice building in Atlanta. Real cool, all the cool eateries around it. It's like, man, I got a cool gig, and then I'm doing my music. And then they let me go on Martin Luther King's birthday, bro. And I thought, whoa, like, that's gonna be the last job I work. Like, I'm just gonna continue to thug it. And soon after that, things just started falling into place, you know. And to this day, I still take it a day at a time, you know, because anything can happen at any moment, as we all have seen with COVID, and things like that. But yeah, I think that was the turning point for me. Just once I decided, like, backpack, like, I'm just gonna thug it out and just put all my energy into making it shape for me. The cool thing about being, I'm a musician as well, so that allowed me to build, back to our previous question, build some relationships and get some work, and that sustained me until everything else started going. Yeah.
Amazing. And what I love that kind of all of you touched on is it sounds like you guys are not complacent. You still want to get, there's more levels to get to, right? You're not just comfortable with the wins or success that you have had currently. So I think that's important to, you know, the attendees, like, hey, even if you have a #1 record or a record that charts or does well, it's still, you know, work has to be done. The grind continues. So I love that. So I kind of want to turn it over to, you know, the topic. You know, obviously we'll hear it about maximizing your royalties. So at the beginning of it, right, I want to kind of explain to people who are just starting this music industry, how would you explain to them what publishing is in a cookie cutter, easy way for them to understand it? Whoever wants to go first, I'll open it up. But how would you explain publishing to someone who's just starting off?
I would say, just on a basic level, publishing is how you get paid. It's on a basic level.
Right.
And we can get deeper and deeper. There's so many layers within that. But yeah, that's publishing is how you get paid.
Gotcha. Any other additional?
Right. That's your bank in your publishing. Like, just protect your bank. That's everything flows into that. And I think a lot of artists and songwriters don't know that or understand that. They hear the word publishing and hear splits, but they don't know about the financial part of it.
Right. And that's why we're here to kind of break it down to them. So we'll definitely get into it. Xylo, anything, just like, how would you explain, you know, to someone, just as simple, what is publishing? How can they understand it?
Well, I think it helped me to understand just kind of the two aspects of the song. You know, one is you've got the recording, and then you've got the publishing side, which relates to kind of the songwriting aspect of it. I'm sure there's a lot of detail that you can go into on that, but kind of separating those two helped me to understand the basics of what it was.
Absolutely. And how it was explained to me early on is real estate, right? This is something that you will forever own. You know, you can keep it, you can sell it, you know, you can do different things with it, but you own the value of it, you know. And it's important to know the value of how much you have, because if you ever wanted to sell it or do any type of deal, you would know what it's worth, right? So at the beginning of it, we can kind of talk about it. You know, someone getting started on the business side, what is the first step? Obviously, I kind of want you guys to talk about, you know, signing up with the PRO, then we can kind of get into Songtrust. So what's the beginning stages to get your business affairs together as it relates to your publishing? And Backpack, I'll let you go first.
First thing, really start your business, LLC it, incorporate it, whatever you choose to do, but make your business real and make it exist so you can take your career serious. Get with an accountant, or if you know accounting, try to understand that part of things. And just going down that checklist of the PRO, signing up with them. But the first thing is, establishing a real business, create a business, your publishing company. That's your first company, your business owner. Hey, let's go. And it just get to work on that first. I mean, the creating part, that comes easy. If you're a musician, songwriter, that's going to come. But when it's time to handle the business and make the money, you got to be a real business to collect.
Right. Absolutely. Anybody want to kind of piggyback off of what Backpack just kind of stated?
I'd probably say, like, just if you don't understand this stuff, because it is quite complex and there's so much to it, try and find someone who does. And there's a lot of people that can kind of dig into the detail for you, because you want to make sure that you're covering off all your bases and aren't kind of missing something vital that you completely didn't know about. So talking to people and just get as much knowledge as you can.
Absolutely. J.O.N, anything?
No, backpacking in the head, like doing LLC, making it a business. I felt so different after I made it official. This was my LLC, and the songwriter just did something to me, you know, that just made me work a little differently. I mean, it's your everything. I mean, think about it. Even now, you see in the news, so many of our favorite artists are selling their catalog for millions and millions and millions of dollars. You know, so and so think about this: if I can buy your catalog for $5 million, that means I have at least double that to do whatever. So whoever did that understands the importance of publishing. They wouldn't just throw that money at the artist because that's their favorite artist. There's power in publishing. So yeah.
Gotcha. And I guess I can to add on to that, you know, to Backpack's point, when you first starting off, right, you obviously want to create an LLC, you know, to make your business official. Wherever you're located around the world, you know, there are PRO companies, which stands for Performance Rights Organizations. You can affiliate with your home society. Now, when you affiliate with them, you know, your publishing royalties fall into two buckets, so to speak. So you have your writer's share and your publishing share. So your writer's share, you know, obviously you would be paid directly through your PRO for the earnings that come in. Also, to Backpack's point, you want to set up a publishing entity for your publishing side royalties to be paid out through, right? Now it's important to understand what the PROs actually pay out, right? So again, they stand for Performance Rights Organizations, which means they pay out performance royalties, which means if you have any song that's playing on television, radio, you know, live events, there is a streaming component compiled into that. So if a restaurant is playing using YouTube or, you know, Spotify to play their music in that establishment, that's considered a public performance. So BMI or ASCAP, wherever you located, will pay these royalties out to you. Now, the biggest, you know, and this is where Songtrust comes into the picture, the biggest misconception is if I have BMI, ASCAP, or if I'm established with my PRO, that's all I need. I'm collecting everything that's owed to me, not understanding that there's a whole side of mechanical royalties that are paid out on the publishing side as well. So that's the kind of conversation I want to direct now to you. When did you guys come to understand just the ecosystem of royalties and how they're paid out? When did that come? After, you know, a few songs, and somebody had to sit you down? Was it an attorney? When did you guys come to understand, you know, just the ecosystem and who pays out what? And I guess Xylo, ladies first. We'll go back to ladies first.
To be honest with you, it was a conversation with Anna Bond from Songtrust, and we were kind of yeah, she was amazing. So we were going through different topics on the podcast that we run as well as part of MPW, and this question was coming up a lot, and so I invited Anna as a speaker, and that's when things like kind of became a bit more clear for me, because there's just sort of so much to it. Yeah, and I think maybe in Australia, which is where I am, which I didn't mention before, I think the system's a little bit easier because the performance and the mechanical rights are kind of collected together. But it sounded like there was a lot to it, especially in the US system.
Absolutely. And I'll kind of let you guys follow up. When did you kind of just understand this whole kind of had your minds wrapped around, had a good understanding of, you know, publishing and what's paid out, you know, through different entities? Whoever wants to.
I'll go. I had to sit down and just Google, you know, break it down, the publishing, like you said, the mechanicals, the writers, like figure out where those shares were going. And once I got that down, as far as registering my songs with ASCAP and seeing the splits on there, I pretty much took that same concept and looked at my income and was like, okay, this is how it is coming in. And that's how I knew it was correct. Like, Okay, that percentage matches, you know, that about that whole record. That's what I made off that record. Okay. But just really trial and error. Like you're not gonna get it right the first record or the second record. It's just gonna come to you, you know, especially if you're doing this independently and by yourself and don't have companies doing it for you. You're gonna have to get up and make sure you're collecting your money the right way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. J.O.N, what you got for me on this? Just when did you kind of understand the ecosystem of royalties and payouts?
It wasn't until I got taken advantage of, and I said, I won't ever let this out happen to me again. I'm gonna just do what I need to do to ensure this never happens to me again. And so I immediately got on Google, and I found, that's how I found Songtrust actually. And I came across this video on YouTube, Kato on the Track. He was talking about how to get all your royalties. And I saw that, and then I started going, Songtrust has some amazing resources for as far as information about publishing and other things. So you just can go down the list. And so I had all these things emailed to me from Songtrust that I would read up on. And it wasn't until then that the light bulb went off. YouTube is an amazing resource. And the light bulb went off. And like Backpack said, once I could understand the mechanical side and the performance side, and then I looked back and I looked at different songs. I thought, okay, so why didn't I get the mechanical royalty from this if I did this, this, and this on the song? You know, and then putting two and two together. And from there on out, I became very passionate about it. So passionate that I made sure all my homies knew about it. Yo, y'all know about this, y'all know about that. Y'all know about Songtrust? Bro, you got music out. Why don't you know about this, man? Let me put you on, you know? And shout out to George Clark. George Clark, I just randomly put in the information to be contacted, and he was the dude to contact. And I'm so thankful that he was the one, because he's just been an invaluable resource for me as far as Songtrust goes. So yeah, that was it. I had to get taken advantage of. I had to get got. And I said, never again.
Absolutely. So obviously, you know, there's different type of publishing situations that some creative can do, right? There's an administrative deal you can do, which Songtrust offers, and there's a co-pub that you can do. So obviously, we talked about, you know, Backpack said publishing is like a bank. I stated it's like a real estate, it's ownership, right? Well, I guess we can talk about, you know, if somebody wants to take this, what's the difference to people who don't know the difference between an administrative deal and a co-pub deal? And whoever kind of wants to take that first, and we'll kind of start there.
So I would say an admin deal is like what you said, Songtrust. They administer your songs for a small fee. When a traditional publishing deal, you may or may not have a quota to turn in. You may get an advance. You may or may not get paid any royalties until you pay that advance back from your placements.
Right.
So there's a huge difference between the two.
Right.
Huge difference.
So just to kind of echo J.O.N, when it comes to co-pub deals, right? If you do a co-pub situation, to his point, they will give you an advance up front, you know, for what's in your current pipeline or future pipeline earnings. With that, though, in exchange of them giving you this advance, you're turning over half of your publishing ownership rights to this company. And to his point, until you're able to recoup that advance deal, you'll be into that deal. And I don't want to go into the nicks and crannies of it because it's different type of co-pub deals that are in terms. But for question for you guys, what leans you more towards an admin deal? So with the admin deal, before you answer, admin deal is the opposite of a co-pub deal, right? So with the admin deal, is specifically with Songtrust, you keep ownership of your publishing rights. So if you produce a song solo and you have 50%, you know, ownership of that, you retain 50% ownership of that. The only thing we do from a company standpoint is help you collect the revenue that's out there. And in exchange, we have a split agreement, you know, for that. So what caused you guys to lean more towards admin situations versus doing a co-pub deal? And Backpack, you can start first.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Honestly, man, when the co-pub offers start coming in 6 figures, 300,000, 500,000, 6, I'm like, oh my God, hold up. If you're offering me this, can I make this? And I was just curious, like, okay, I seen everybody on the records take the deals and stuff, and I'm like, I just want to sit back and just see what goes on. And once I seen, okay, man, you can make exactly what they're offering you, I was sold. I'm like, yo, I can do this myself. It's worth it.
Right.
It's really worth it. I mean, the placements don't come as fast. I gotta, get out here and work a little harder. The co-pubs, they help you do that. And like I said, they collect your money and manage those things. But I'm actually fine with doing things myself and managing my small catalog myself. So that's what made me, stick to the admin, just collecting it. I just wanted to see, just to be curious, just to see how things go without signing a deal.
And to your point, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? So
right.
right.
Right. And those deals gonna keep coming, man. It's based on songs, so as long as you're keep making records, you can choose to take a deal or not, so it's yeah, like you said, it's a marathon, man.
Right, absolutely. But it's also important again to just understand, the value of your catalog, right?
Right.
And obviously, I'm glad the light bulb went off for you. If these deals are coming in at 300,000, six-figure deals, obviously some publishers are forecasting what the catalog is worth. So
Right.
it may take you 6 to 9 months or maybe even longer, a year or two to obtain the full amount in exchange for a co-pub. Obviously you're getting this money right up front. But again, 50% is again, ownership rights are being taken away. So back to the original question, guys, what leads you, Xylo or J.O.N to doing an admin instead of doing a co-pub situation? What was the importance of it?
So you want to
For J.O.N.
Okay, well, I had a homeboy, still my homeboy. He was in a deal with one of the big publishers, and his conversations with me, the things I saw, man, they didn't seem inspiring to me. It was. So I thought to myself, if I could just hold out, if I could just thug it out, I'm just gonna thug it out and not sign a pub deal, unless the money is ridiculous. And it's funny because with that mindset, I just focused on doing as much as I could and doing my research and finding the best administrator. I did a lot of research before I came to Songtrust. And what I saw here, it just seemed like an ideal situation. And with the admin, it's just more freedom creatively because again, my homeboy had that quota and he had those things that he had to do a certain song by a certain time. If I did a song with him, he wouldn't get a certain, but a small percentage. It wasn't like half. It was like half of half. It was it just seemed like a lot of hassle, a lot of trouble, and the juice wasn't worth the squeeze in a lot of ways from what I say. I know some people that works out for them. They have an amazing career and, make a lot of money and take care of their family. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I saw for me, admin was definitely the way to go for sure.
Absolutely. Love that story, man. Xylo, what do you have for us as far as what kind of just gravitated you more towards, doing an admin deal? What was the importance in it?
To be honest, I feel like J.O.N and Backpack is probably more relevant for them, and they've kind of covered all the main bits, so not much to add to that really.
Okay, no problem. All right, so obviously we've talked about co-pub, admin, just kind of the ecosystem of royalties, right? I want to get into after a song is placed, this is a hot topic that people like to discuss as far as splits and producer fees, right? When is the appropriate time to talk about splits? Do you guys do it before a session starts, after a session starts? Do you let the lawyers or attorneys or managers deal with it? What's your process and what's your advice on discussing splits? And Xylo, since you didn't have much about the last one, I'll let you go ahead and start on this one.
Yeah, sure. I guess for me, it's usually after we've got the song kind of almost down pat, or the structure of it anyway, so we kind of know who contributed what to establish exactly what that percentage is. And I mean, the earlier you can do it, the better, I guess, to kind of reduce complications down the line. Yeah, that's been my experience.
Okay. J.O.N, what you got?
I would say there was a panel, 2 panels before this, and they touched on this as well. I think that it's weird to touch on it before because we're talking about an imaginary splits for an imaginary song, you know. So it's important to have a song first, and then possibly I'll have that conversation after. When I work with people, you know, usually when we talk about Lincoln, you know, like I try to establish that, hey, so okay, I'll come through, you know, we'll make a song, you know, and we'll do split 50-50. All right, cool, boom. Or and then I try to set that precedent before I even come. One, it says I'm about the business, you know. So and it shows an awareness about it. And the people I work with are usually cool with that because they're about their business as well. And we wanted to make some great music. So a lot of times if I'm working with one person and we're in the studio, you know, I'll just do 50-50 because let's just focus on creating some great music. I don't want you worried about or throwing lines in just so you can say you got on the song. You know? So a lot of times it's about relationships and the people you work with as well. You know, and so again, it's important. Relationship and chemistry is everything. So
Absolutely. Just to piggyback, I mean, so is it safe to say you don't have to do split sheets with people that you work with in your close quarters? Like if you're working with a songwriter or collabing with a producer, and you guys are, you know, pretty much locking in every day. Are you normally doing split sheets with them, or it's kind of an understanding, you know, when the songs come out, it's going to be even, you know, splits?
I try to establish like a split sheet at some point, you know. Again, especially if I've already talked about before we linked, I might not do the split sheet that session, but I'll send it over because it's already established. So for me, yeah, I think just for your records, it's important to have split sheets because I've seen situations where people get amnesia once a song leaves the studio and starts generating revenue. So I think it's important at some point to have your paperwork. And that's just being a good businessman. And like Backpack said, taking your songwriting as a business, making the LLC, that's all a part of that, having paper trails and protecting yourself.
Perfect. So Backpack, what you would kind of say to this topic?
Yeah, they both hit it right on the head. Yeah, just taking care of those things ahead of time. And as far, I mean, with the producers, I just make sure, you know, it's always 50-50 if we collaborated on it. I don't care what you did or, you know, how much you did. It's just 50-50 to make it easy. Songwriters, that process is a little different. I just make sure I keep up with everybody's name who was involved on the song. And then when it's time, yeah, we'll figure out the numbers, you know, as far as the splits. But yeah, just knock that out ahead of time so that won't be a topic of conversation because like he said, people get amnesia when stuff come out. So
Right.
you just got to make sure you know what you did.
Absolutely. And just, I guess, just to piggyback, I mean, for you guys, you know, if you're working, you know, if your creators you're working with are close friends, you guys have over time have created a personal relationship. Are you now letting just your managers handle that just to keep it from being awkward? Or is that something you guys still discuss with, you know, with the other producer or songwriter?
I'm big on communication.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm
Gotta
saying?
communicate.
You gotta communicate, bro. You're so right. And sometimes I don't like people talking for me.
Okay.
You know, I like to look you in the eye, let's communicate, man to man or woman, you know, and we'll just break bread. You know, like I'm just big on it and being transparent. My business model is fair and reasonable. What's fair and what's reasonable? You know what I'm saying? So we can just create versus being caught up in the schematics. And, you know, it's a shame. So many great music making relationships are torn apart over things like this. You know, so I just try to be aware of that. It's about the music, is it not?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
So we talked about the splits. I want to kind of shift it to fees, right? For a producer starting out, like, what should his fee be? Like, what are you guys, how do you get to a point to where you know, I want to charge this amount for my services?
I would love to hear your perspective Backpack and Xylo.
Just when I was starting out, I mean, I do it based off of major artists that sign to major labels, and then I have a fee for my independent artists. But starting out, I just heard from my lawyer and other people 5,000 starting out, and that's what I started getting from the labels at first. And then of course, as the placements came in, the fee kept going up. So I just do it based on that placements, the accolades, what's going on. And I'm sorry, I don't do the $100 leases and exclusives, and no shame to anybody that does that, but it's just I do place a value on my products and my services, and it does have to go up as things go up for my business.
Absolutely. So J.O.N, anything just like as far as the fees, like what is a good starting place, and how do you discuss that? Is that something you like, your attorney take care of, or I'll let you just, give us your take on it.
The journey of a producer is a lot of twists and turns. And I think that what Backpack said about having a team, having a lawyer, having someone to talk to and figure that out, and be a buffer for you is important. And if you have that, definitely take advantage of that and lean on it. For me, it was like, it was some of that. And it was just some of, in the beginning, it was what could I get? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, shoot, I want 15, but I'll take a rap, And then it got to a point where I said, let me make sure I don't take anything under $1,000. Okay, let me make sure I don't take anything under this. Let me take that just as it grown, So that's what I would say. But if you have that team, I mean, if you get $1,000 a track, you should have a lawyer or someone that you talk to, reach out to give you some insight. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. And Xylo, I'm interested to hear your take. Obviously the producer game right now is definitely a heavy male oriented, industry. So for you, producing records, how do you navigate, just one, being a producer, and then, your feet, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's a tough thing to know where to start, I guess, but I think it's important as well, after you've kind of honed your craft for a little while as well, to value your time, because I think people can, you can also undercut yourself when you're starting out a lot as well. And then you find that, that can get taken advantage of a little bit. So, test it as well, maybe start somewhere, charge a bit more and see what happens. You might be surprised when someone actually pays you something that's maybe a bit higher than you thought. And then that can increase your own kind of self-worth and make you feel like, okay, maybe I am worth that much. But it's not an easy thing to get to starting out. But I think you just have to go through that journey, really.
Xylo, you touched on you can undercut yourself sometimes. That is so true. Like the worst feeling in the world is someone asks you, how much? And you give them a price, like, okay, cool. You be like, dang. You was too quick to say yes.
Right.
Like, and I feel some kind of way about that. Like I definitely like that's the worst feeling in the world. Because no matter what the pay is, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna leave it all on the track,
Right.
So you're gonna get that same effort, but damn, it would have been sweeter just to, to get to the number. So it's important to not undercut stuff. Great point. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we got 10 minutes left, but I do have an important question still on this topic, right? How important is the relationship over the money? So let's say, there's an artist and the budget, they need to come down off your feet, that how important is maybe taking less money to maybe have a bigger relationship and that opening up more doors for you guys? And
I think
sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think it depends on the person and the project as well. Like sometimes, it's worth it, and you see the potential in what you're doing to be like, that's fine. I'll make it work for you, and we'll keep it going and see what happens. And you want that person to be a returning, person that you work with. But there are some projects that are just more pain than it's worth, in which case I think you just have to think, is it worth me to kind of undercut to keep this person where it might be more headache than kind of what it's worth, because that can happen as well.
Agreed. Anybody having a response to that? Just how important is the relationship versus the money sometimes?
I think the relationship is everything. You know, I think relationship, chemistry is everything. And I know I would definitely, and I have in the past, taken less for the sake of the music. Now, I do that way less now than in the past. And like Xylo said, it can be a headache sometimes. So it's important that you reserve those favors, you know, for the things that matter most. But yeah, music is a very powerful thing, and I think relationships and the chemistry going into that studio is a reason why some songs feel the way they feel when you listen to it. You know? So yeah, relationship is very important.
Okay, backpack. I'll let you kind of touch on this real quick.
Yeah, the same. Relationships over the money. The relationships are going to keep you going, you know, and keep the other things coming in. So yeah, I focus on the relationships. The money, we're gonna make the money as long as our relationship is strong, because
Right.
that's what this music is. It's about building and bonding a relationship. The writers and the producers coming together is a relationship. They always tell me a marriage. So that's what I focus on, that relationship. How can it get better? How can we improve it and, you know, make the best of it?
Perfect. Yeah, I will have to agree with all, you know, it's certain situations, every situation is different, you know, but relationships is probably the most important component to thriving in the music industry. You know, you never know who's gonna, you know, start at the bottom and end at the top. So you always want to foster those relationships and then just make sure, you know, they're in good intact. Want to keep your face card good, so to speak, at all times.
Right.
And we got about 5 minutes left. So to kind of end it, what do you guys recommend, you know, to early career producers, you know, developing guys? How should they be able to promote themselves now? How do they just get in certain rooms? I mean, we kind of touched on this, but just what advice do you guys have just for an up and coming songwriter or producer just starting off? And ladies first again, why not?
Sure. I mean, I think this sounds really basic, but I think it's so important. Like, just focus on being a good person. Like, I think people just, you know, you're spending a lot of time, especially with production, like one-on-one with a person or with some writers or whatever it is. And people want to work with someone they like. And you can, I think sometimes starting out, maybe you feel like you want to play this kind of cool game and be kind of too cool for school, and kind of shut yourself off from people that way. But just kind of being humble and being down to earth and being relatable, I think can help you build those relationships. And like Backpack said, you know, that's what will keep you going in the future. And so just kind of being nice, investing in those relationships, and you know, network has been huge for me as well.
Absolutely. J.O.N, what you got, man? Just what advice you have for up and coming, just creative? You know, how do they get the names out there? How do they get established?
I would say get busy, make music, put the music out, you know, build an email list, like do as much as you can to put the decision making in your hands when it comes to your music. You know, like collaborate with fellow music makers, put that out, put it out while you shopping it and sending it to labels. Like do everything you can in your power to put your music out. And like there's a power in it that I can only, you know, I can't give you. You gotta get for yourself. But once you do that, once you understand controlling your IPs, your intellectual property, and you can begin to license songs, and then you begin to see the power in your publishing. But none of that can happen if you don't get busy, and none of that can happen if you're waiting on someone else approval on your placement, waiting on someone else to write on your song. Do as much as you can yourself to put yourself in position, you know, to make music your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Backpack, I'll let you close this question out.
That was all. Both of those were great. Yes, the same. Just focus on, you know, focus on your role. You know, what is it that you do? If you're a songwriter, focus on that. You're a beat maker, sample maker, you know, musician, whatever it is. Just master that role. Once you master that, focus on your branding, focus on your name, your business, and just take things serious like a business. Operate like a business at all times so you can grow and make money. That's the main thing I tell my up and coming producers and writers. Just treat this like a business, man. That's the only way you can grow. If you don't take it serious, nobody else will. So
Perfect. I love it. And lastly, before we head out, let the people know where they can find you guys, how they can contact you, and also anything that you may be working on currently, or any placements, you know, any surprise placements you guys want to throw out there. So I'll let you start first. How can they follow you, where to find you at, contact you, and what are you currently working on before we head out?
Yeah, of course. So just at Xylo Aria on Instagram is probably the best place. Say hi. I'd love to hear from you. And working on an EP at the moment, which should be out shortly, and kind of just lots of building with MPW. So we've got kind of big 12-month plans on that. So just be growing that going forward.
Perfect. J.O.N, you next. What you got?
You can follow me at NBA J_O_N, NBA J_O_N. My website, denmarktigers.com. I have an artist, Nick Lucas, amazing artist. We're rolling out videos and music. We have a new single coming out called Ocean, October 26th. And I'm working on my 5th instrumental album, Habits and Destinations. And that'll be out in about 2 weeks as well. I'm really excited about that. And you can catch me on tour, the 85 South Show, coming to a city near you.
Love it. And Backpack Man, I'll let you close it out. How can the people find you, and what you're currently working on right now?
you can catch me on all social media platforms at Backpack Miller. My website, backpackmusic.net. Right now, I'm just focusing on the branding of Backpack. Got the hoodies for the fall collection that I'm working on right now. Thanks. So still producing, looking for artists to manage and writers to currently manage right now. That's my main focus right now, just building the Backpack brand.
Love it. Love it. Well, I want to say thank you all, you know, for joining me and having this great discussion. I would love to have a part 2 of this and expand a little bit more on some topics. But thank you guys for tuning in. Again, my name is Whoop. I'm the business development associate here in Atlanta / A&R here in Atlanta for Songtrust. You can follow me also on Instagram at Woot Exclusive. And thank you guys. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to email me at woot@songtrust.com, WOOT@songtrust.com.